Good morning, everyone. In the last session, we're trying to discuss about the Spring Boot with a REST-related example we identified here. So let me see whatever we identified in the last class. So if we go to this particular CUD controller, here we identify the different classes here. Okay. So like this particular class is containing. Okay. Now you can see these are all the different classes we are having here. Now here inside this particular class we connected with multiple methods here. So these are all the methods. It's trying to delete, update as well as load the data from the databases here. Now how we are hitting this particular request here? From the postman we are able to hit this particular request. Okay. So yesterday we got some exception related to this particular security. So basically, so I given the order as a first here. So earlier it was the after this particular anti-matcher role here. Now I modified to this particular first role. Now it is able to access the data. So when we are trying to run this example, here we can see what is the issue we had in the last session. So let me run this example. So now you can see application is started in the port call 9090. Okay, if I'm trying to clear this, I will go to this particular example. So from the postman, we are able to hit this particular request here. So this is the request I'm trying to hit here, get user info. Whenever I'm trying to click on this, now you can see, so we are able to see the two records here. So whatever the two records we are having in the database, now we are able to get these two records here. Okay, so earlier what happens here, basically we are able to redirect into the Kanban. So we are able to redirect into the login page. So if you go to this particular page here, now again I'm going to provide whatever the password, like a port number we are trying to run, 9090. Now you can see I'm coming back to the sign in. Getting the pin. So here I'm trying to coming back to the sign in. But whenever I'm trying to click on this, so CUD request the get user info. So it is not expecting any sign in info. So directly it is providing this particular information here. Getting the point. So this is important, we need to understand here. And another important section here, I'm going to give the 12. So it will try to return the first record. So here I'm having the breakpoint here. Let me so remove this particular breakpoints. Now we'll go for here. Now you can see first record. Whatever the based on this particular ID, we are able to load the first record information. Getting the point. So this is we need to understand how this particular security we are excluding here. So yesterday it was included. Now I excluded this particular security because of this particular line. So this is we already discussed here, but only where is the config? So this section we already identified in the last session because of this particular anti-matcher. So it is not able to override the exclude configuration. So now I given the first priority. So that now it will try to excluding this particular request is here. Okay, so whatever the request we are having, now it is excluded. Okay, so all the section of code I pushed into the same branch, whatever we are trying to use this particular branch. Okay, so this is the branch. Now you can identify the whatever the code we are having. So yesterday I pushed the changes into this particular branch and copy the code, and you can practice the changes here. Now if you go to this security config, now you can see first I given this particular priority. Okay, so first I given this particular priority. Now everything so remaining same. So this is all about the Spring Boot with REST related example we identified, and now we'll go for the another important section called microservice. So how this particular microservice are going to implemented here. So why we need to move on to the microservices? Get in the point. So we are trying to work on the Spring with the Spring Boot again. So why we need to move on to the microservices? So this is important here. So basically, if you go to the any applications in the like 5 years back or 6 years back, now you'll understand here how the applications are developed here. Basically, the applications are, we'll call it as a monolithic applications. So in the monolithic application, or we can call it as a monolithic architecture, what happens internally? So all the resources, like all the resources, nothing but we have a UI related resource as well as So we can access the database related information, getting the point, and the business logic. Everything we are going to implement it as a single artifact. If we observe carefully how we are writing this particular example, Spring Boot example, so you can go to the pom.xml. Inside the pom.xml, what we are having, so this is our group ID. So com.springboard example, and this is our version, and we are trying to package the var file and name of this particular, and this is some information. Getting the point. Now, if you observe, this is, we'll call it as a our project information. So here you can see artifact ID. So this is the single artifact ID we are developing here. If you are trying to write a application, getting the point. So if you're trying to implement the application, so here this application can contain the database related information as well as the front end related. So your related changes here we are going to implement, and the business logic. So whatever the business logic we are going to have for this particular application, so those information also we are going to write inside the same artifact here. Okay. So in our previous applications, we'll call it as a monolithic architecture. So using this particular monolithic architecture, we'll try to write the single artifact. So what are the drawbacks we are going to have basically? Basically, whenever you are trying to, when you are trying to get any exception, like if you are trying to fix the bug, now what happens internally? So in your organization, around 10 people are they're trying to implement the changes. Okay. Now you can see, so UI, they are having 5 people, and so the business related sections, they are having 5 people. Okay. So in the 5 people, so one person, they are trying to fix this particular bugs, and he fixed the bugs. Now what happened here? So now this particular artifact information, so we need to deploy into the server here. So then only the application will run here. Now what happens internally? So even though because of this particular small bug, what happens internally? First rebuild this. Getting the point? Okay, and so retest this and redeploy. Okay, so these are all the main changes we need to understand here. First, we need to rebuild again because we modify some changes. So the changes is working or not, first we need to retest here. So after testing this application, now what we will do, we will try to redeploy into the different environment. So basically in the real-time scenarios, so we are going to use dev branch. Okay, so and we are going to use QA branch, and so you are going to use UAT. Okay, later we'll move on to the production. Getting the way. So these are all the different stages we are going to use. So if you're trying to deploy, so this is the hierarchy we need to follow. So first we are going to deploy into the dev and QA and UAT. After this, so based on our availability, we'll move on to the production environment. Getting the point. So these are all the different stages we are going to follow. Now you can think here what happens internally. So because of this particular small bug, now what are the changes are repeating here. So this particular building, testing and deployment, these are the multiple times it's going to repeat. So when we are trying to rebuild the application, so another user, like another developer, they cannot test anything. They cannot develop anything here. Getting the point. Because of this particular monolithic architecture, what happens internally while building and testing an application as another developer, so they cannot test or they cannot deploy their changes here. Getting the point. So if you observe, if this particular bugs are repeated multiple times, now what happens internally? So other developers needs to wait idle here, because once they fix, then only they can move on to the another environment here. So for example, you can identify here while logging into the application, we got an exception. Okay, so when we are trying to log into the application, if you get any exception, what happens internally? So another users cannot log in. Get in pain. So first we need to fix this. After fixing this, now if you are trying to search items here, like if you are trying to search the product information, so whenever you are trying to search the product information, if the products are not founding, what happens internally? Other developers, they cannot move here, because of this particular monolithic architecture, what happens internally? So they will depends on this particular each and every product here. Getting the point. So this is the drawbacks we are going to have in the monolithic architecture style. So because of this, the microservices are introduced. So basically, microservices basically it will try to divide it into the different parts of the applications here. Okay, and the divided each part we'll call it as a service. Getting the point. So this application now we are going to divide it into the multiple services. Earlier applications we are going to work as a module, but all the modules we are going to make as a one service. So this is the differences we need to identify in the monolithic architecture as well as microservice architecture here. Okay, so now with the help of this particular microservice architecture, what we are going to do, we'll try to divide into the multiple services. So for example, if we are having e-commerce application, okay, if it are having e-commerce application, now what are the services we are going to have? Mainly, so we are going to come up with a common service. Okay, so we'll try to connect with the common service, because the common service what it will do, whatever the common information we are going to have, we'll try to deploy into this particular common service, so that we are going to reuse this service into the multiple, so another services here. Okay, so this is we are going to use it, and another one we can go for the, if you are trying to provide any core related services. Okay, core service we can identify, and another one is product service. Another one is product service. So after this, now what we are going to provide here, now if you are trying to make any payment related, okay, so we can go for the payment service. And after this, if you are trying to communicate with any cloud related, so each and every service we can make some cloud related section, so we cannot come up with those separately. And if you are trying to search something, okay, so we can go for the search service. Getting the point. And another important information now, so I think if you open the any e-commerce, so checkout related, so you can go for the checkouts related. So service, such service, like a payment service, product service, and so a core service. So core service basically, so we can make some security related stuff, and other stuff, like when we are trying to provide the, if we are trying to come out the some other application, so in that case, do we really provide the security, or we don't want to provide security? So those information we can make inside this particular core service. Okay, so checkout service also we are having, and item tracking service. Getting the pay. So it's like a tracking service. So these are all the different services we can write here when we're trying to come up with the monolithic style here. So this all the services, getting the point, we are going to make under the one artifact here, under this particular one artifact. Now what we are doing here, so this all the services now we divided into the different application. So this particular each and every whatever the artifact we are having, so we'll try to separate with the GitHub repository, database, and deployment sections. These are not independent to each other here. So if we go to the particular diagram, you will easily understand how these particular diagrams are going to provide. So let me go to the our website. Here I pasted uploaded the diagrams here. Now if you go to the microservice, so here you can see, so if it is a monolithic style here, now what we are doing is, so this is a mutual funds team, and so customer related team here, and data warehouse related team here, and now you can identify, now you can identify UI related team. So all the teams, getting the point. So here all this particular we can identify as a service. So they are trying to work as a single source code. Single source code is nothing but, so this particular all the modules we are going to make one source file, like either we are going to use SVN or Git. So we are going to push all the changes into this particular source code here. Okay, so once the source code is identified, database also only one we are going to use here, one database here. Getting the point. Now you can see how many requests we are going to hit into this particular single database here. Getting the point. So this is the earlier, the monolithic style we are trying to use it. But if we observe carefully, if we come back to here in our microservice architecture, now you can see. So here they are trying to have different specific GitHub repository, and the same way they're trying to work on the separate database here. So build is different, to database is different. Getting the point. If you are having any issues, like if you are having any bugs, so only this particular repository team they are trying to fix here. So other team they can like they can work on the whatever they are trying to implement here. Getting the point. So they are not going to depend on the particular like this particular mutual team firms. Getting the point. So this is the way of implementing the microservices architecture here. Getting the point. So this is very important here. Now you can see here they are having the source code is different. So they are also having the different source code here, and here also they are trying to have the different database. Here you can work with like a relational database, or if you are interested work with NoSQL databases, anything you can take. So like here if you are trying to interested, you can go for the Postgres, or you can go for here MongoDB. Getting the point. And here you can go for the any, so something like a DynamoDB. Getting the point. So for this UI related, we are going to come up with something like a different like a source code repository, and we are having, so these are all the services that are trying to deploy with help of this particular continuation integration pipeline. So this is basically, we'll call it as a CI/CD pipeline. So this will basically these pipelines are going to provided by the DevOps team. This section based on the our service. If you're trying to complete your service, now what you can do, you can like you can build your service and you can deploy your service here. Okay, this is, we'll call it as some continuous integration and continuous development here. So once you like complete your fixes here, you can build your application, you can deploy into this particular service, so that this service can have the latest changes, and this particular services may not have the latest changes here. So based on the development availability, so we can work on this particular CI/CD pipelines. Basically, this will call it as a CI/CD integrations here. Okay, so continuous integration and continuous development here. Getting the point. So this is very important information we are identifying here. So if you see, with help of this particular section, we are not depending into the any other service. We are trying to independently develop the each and every service. Now you can think, so how we are going to implement with help of this particular any e-commerce application. So e-commerce application, common service, core service, some product service, search service. Getting the point. So something like a payment service, we can go for the tracking service, or we can go for the finally UI related changes. Again, we are going to have some other service here. Okay, so this is the way of we are going to divide into the multiple services. So each and every service is not going to depend into the another service. So this is the main advantage we are going to get when we are trying to discuss about the microservice information. Okay, so now if you are trying to identify this particular microservice, like before going to discuss about the more information about the microservice, in the monolithic, what are the drawbacks? The first one is size. Getting the point, because if it is a one artifact, definitely it is going to increase the the product code size is very big, and complexity. So if you want to maintain this particular application, or if you want to maintain this particular source code, it is very lengthy process, because if we want to fix any information, we need to wait a lot of developers here. So because of this, it is very complexity we need to maintain the monolithic applications here. Because of this, now we are shifting into the microservices related information here. Okay, so now what we are going to get the advantages, basically first one is loosely coupled here. Getting the point. So we are not working with a tight couple here. So these are all the services are loosely coupled with each and every service. Okay, and here we are going to provide only the like service related information wherever the service is required here. So in the pom.xml, or the what we can call it as a Gradle related, inside the Gradle we are going to provide the dependencies information. So that's it. So we are not going to make any additional changes here. So these are all the two changes we are going to provide. So because of this, we are going to make some loose coupled here. And so here, whatever the services we are going to provide here, these are all the distributed services here. They are not going to depend on the another services here. Okay, and here with the help of this particular microservices, we are going to get the large scale of applications we can develop here, because here internally it is not going to depend on the any other service. So now we identified is how this particular applications are going to work. So but what we are doing basically, we are trying to divide into the so it's like a small applications here. So if I'm going to show you the any e-commerce website here, let me, so simple example I want to provide this. Now you can see here only we can identify different services here. Get independent. So now you can see, so if I want to become a seller, this is the different service. Okay, so cart related we already discussed, this is the another service. Now you can see login and sign up related one more service. Okay, so these are all the product related here. Whatever we are able to see here, these are all the product related information. So from the product service we are going to load this particular information here, and internally whenever we are trying to click some additional information, these are all the images we are going to get from the product. And so this we already discussed it. If you are trying to search something, this will call it as a search service, because internally we are going to use some caching mechanism to load the data from the caches. Instead of each and every search operation, instead of loading from the databases, we'll use the some caching related here. Okay, so this is all about the main important we need to identify. Any other services we are having? I think so here we are having so shipping related and payment related here. So something like so returns, so cancellation and return. So these are all we can make as a some different service. So now you can see how many services we are going to create this particular e-commerce application. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is the big one, product service. So around 8 or 10 services we are going to create. Okay, it may increase it, but based on this particular home page, now we identified we are trying to communicate with 8 services here. Getting the pen. So this is very important here. So this is the way of dividing this particular application into the services here. Now if you observe carefully, now what we are doing is we are trying to broken into the small services here, or we can call it as a small component here. Getting the pen. So because of this, we are going to follow the particular microservice architectures here. Okay, now here what we are doing is, so here each component has a small domain here. So whatever the each component we are trying to providing internally, it will contain the small domain like search domain, product domain. So like a core service will comes under the sign in and sign up related here, and to become a seller also, it is a one more service we are going to provide here. And here if you are having any issue, so the each service developer, they are responsible to identify the bug, and they are going to fix this particular the issues whatever we are going to get here, and they are not focusing on the other services. Like if the one service is down, we can easily run our application with different services here. Because of this particular one service, it is not going to stop the entire applications here. Okay, so this is the main advantage we are going to get here. And so basically this all the microservices we are going to build with help of this particular Spring Boot here. Whatever we are trying to implement here, so we are going to build with Spring Boot here. So to identify this particular Spring Boot, first what we need, so again the simple example I'm going to provide here. So whatever we identified in the last example, so with help of this last example, I'm going to provide the some example. If you can see here, we are having Spring Boot example applications here. Okay, so here I'm having, so this particular Spring Boot example application we are having, and internally this is the main method we identified here. Okay, but here now what I'm doing here, I'm trying to write the so request to mapping here. So just for understanding, I'm trying to write how this particular the REST related example. Yesterday we already identified, so one more time I'm trying to providing this. So this is the request mapping, and here I'm trying to providing so value is equals to something like what we can provide. So microservice. Okay. So here I'm trying to providing microservice, and here I'm going to come up with one method here. So what is the method we can write here? So public string just for so hello microservice. So basically this is not a microservices. With the help of this particular Spring Boot we are trying to write it, but observe carefully how I'm trying to write this particular method here. Okay, now here request mapping I'm trying to provide, and this request mapping I'm trying to provide with the value. So what is the value we can provide? So we already provided microservice here. So after this particular microservices, now I'm going to provide something like first name, and here last name. Okay, so these are all the placeholder I'm trying to provide. So yesterday we discussed about this particular placeholder recording of this particular ID. Now what I'm doing is, now I'm trying to providing first name and last name here. So after this, now what I will do, here I'm going to provide the what type of method we are going to use. So the method I'm trying to use, get method. Okay, so this is the get method I'm providing. And here, what we can provide here, so because of this particular placeholder, we need to provide the path variable, and the path variable should match with whatever the placeholder we are trying to providing. So it's like a first name, and another one is, so one more path variable I'm trying to use, last name. Okay, so this is last name I'm trying to provide. So after this, I'm not going to provide much code here. So simply we'll try to return this particular string here. So I want to use join, and here the delimiter I want to provide as a underscore. So here underscore with the first name, comma, last name. Getting the point. So this is I want to return here. Okay, and here now what I'm doing here, we need to provide the main method with the controller or REST controller. So here I'm going to provide the REST controller. So yesterday we discussed about the REST controller advantages. So because we identified some drawbacks with help of this particular controller. Because of that, I'm not using the controller directly. I'm trying to use this particular REST controller annotations here. Okay, now you can see. So we implemented a simple method. So this method we are going to hit from the postman. So if I want to hit this method from the postman, so I cannot use this particular method directly, because we are having some security here. Because of the security, what happens internally? So it will go to the sign in page. So now you can see, so application is started. Now I'm trying to clear this particular console. I'm copying this. We'll go to the, where is this? So microservice, after this first name. So what we can provide this particular first name, I want to provide as a Spring, and another one is boot. Another one is I want to give as a boot. Now you can see, so it is coming back to the sign in page here. So I will provide the sign in like yesterday we are trying to discuss about this particular security. After this, now you can see Spring underscore boot. Spring underscore boot. Whatever this particular first name and last name we are providing it, now it is trying to return this particular message. Because here, what is the delimiter I'm using it? Here now you can see underscore here. Because of this particular underscore, whatever the first name and last name we are having, it is trying to make an underscore between these two strings here. Getting the point. So if I don't want to use this particular microservice, now what we can do, we'll go to the where is the security? Here we can add microservice. So after this particular microservice, we can add 2 stars here. Okay, now again, I'm trying to stop this particular example. Here, I'm going to restart the same example. So application is started. So carefully observe here, once the application is restarted, basically, if this URL is under the security, we need to go back to the security page here. So now what I'm doing is, I'm trying to modify this. So boot I'm trying to make as a 123. Okay, first name as I given as a Spring, the last name I'm trying to give as a boot 123. So I'm trying to hit one more time here. Now you can see, so without this particular security, without this particular security, now it is trying to show the message, whatever the first and the last time we are having. But earlier, what we identified, so it's coming back to the first as a sign-in page. So once we provide the credential, now it is going back to our request. So wherever we implemented this, now you can see Spring underscore boot 123. Okay, so this is the simple one with help of this particular REST template. Okay, with help of this particular REST controller, now we identify the one method. Now we are able to see the response here. So here, what is we are returning? If we are trying to return string here. So this is the string join. It will try to return the string format. But yesterday, what we identified, if I will open this particular CUD controller, now you can see each and every method is connected with the response body. So if I'm not providing this particular response body internally, what is expecting? It is trying to expect the something like view pages here. So something like view pages. So here, because of this particular REST controller, it is not expecting any response body as well as request body. Getting the point? So this is the main advantage we are going to get here. So after this, now what we need to understand here. Okay, so now here, why we are going to change this particular build of this particular application? So what is the advantage we are going to get here? So basically, if we observe carefully, this is very important. So the way of building an application, why we are changing here. If we observe the monolithic architecture, what happens internally, we cannot give, get in the point. So we cannot give as a partial applications here. So once the entire application is completed, now we can share the application into the as a customer here. But if you observe carefully, inside this particular, here I'm having, so inside this particular monolithic application, now what happens internally, all the services needs to complete here. Hidden pin, all the services, like whatever we discuss here, like such service, common service, core service, like product service, get in the pen. If all the services completed, then only we'll build this application and we'll follow the different environments, because we are going to provide the testing the application. So we have a lot of different stages we are going to have in the production environment. Get in the pen. So once all the stages of this particular application testing is completed, then the version of this particular application they are going to deploy into the client environments here. Get in the pen. So for example, so we develop this application like with the help of this particular multiple services here. So first what we need to push into the dev environment, because in the dev only we are going to test the applications. Okay, so in the day to day we'll try to follow this particular two environments, so dev and QA. So after this UAT, so we are going to provide this particular UAT related. So once inside the UAT, we have a different like validation, verification. So we are going to follow lot of different stages here. So if you follow all the stages, now with this particular UAT, it will go to the production. Right. Now if you observe carefully, whenever it is going to take the production, so if you are trying to sign in this application as a 2 years or 3 years, so within the 2 years you need to complete this. But nowadays customer, they are not waiting 2 years. This is very important here. Get in the pen. So they are trying to getting the response within the short time here. Basically, if the application is completed within the 3 months or 6 months, they need to deploy this latest changes into the their wherever they are trying to use. For example, if it is an e-commerce application, so they are expecting some changes. Okay, they are expecting some changes. So the changes needs to complete within the 3 or 6 months here. So once these particular changes are completed, whatever the changes we deploy, they are trying to deploy into their own environments here. So for example, if it is a Flipkart, getting the point. So directly we are not going to work with the Flipkart here. So first we'll deploy, like we'll develop these particular changes and we'll follow this particular stages here. So after completion of this particular changes, whatever the WAR file we are going to build this, so we are going to give the client, so they are going to deploy into their environments here. So after 6 months, they are able to see the latest changes here. So this is nowadays the customers are expecting, because of this we cannot build the application with help of this particular monolithic here. So we need to follow the microservice the guidelines, so that we can achieve the whatever the customer expecting in the day-to-day here. So because of this, now we are able to change the building the applications life cycle here. So this is very important here. Okay. So now you can see, if you are trying to deploy any one of the service, if you are trying to complete one service, we are going to deploy the one service. Okay. So if you are deploying all the services, we are going to deploy all the services here. Getting the point. So this is important. And so once we complete here, we need to follow the cloud related structures here. Basically the clouds, if you observe with a different vendor, we are able to see the different cloud environments here. But so we need to identify what exactly the cloud will do and what are the different infrastructure the cloud is going to provide here. So what are the different type of infrastructures the cloud will provide here. So basically, so the cloud internally, it is trying to provide it into these three format here. So we can call it as a IaaS, and so this is, we can call it as another one is PaaS, and another one is this is SaaS, like infrastructure as a service. Getting the point. So platform as a service and software as a service. So this is the three different the cloud infrastructures we are having here. Getting the point. So first one is infrastructure. They are going to provide us some infrastructure. So there we need to build our cloud environment and whatever we are expecting. So we need to deploy all the information. So and platform related, I will try to explain, and software related, how it is going to provide. So if we observe, so simple example I will provide so that we can easily understand the different infrastructure about this particular clouds here. So first one is infrastructure as a service, second one is platform as a service, and third one is software as a service. So which one is suitable for our applications here? So either we can go for this particular infrastructure, or we can go for this particular platform, and we can go for this particular software. So but we need to identify the internal working style, how it is going to work, these three here. Okay. So now you can see the simple example. So if you want to make any meal, get in the pen. So if you want to go to the restaurant now, what you will do, basically you will try to prepare, or in the restaurant people will prepare the any different dishes here. So based on the menus, we are going to select the dishes here. Getting the pen. And so if you are not interested to go to the restaurant now, what you will do, so you will try to buy the required items and you will try to prepare the whatever the different type of dishes at your home only. So this is a way. These are all the different this particular services they are going to provide you. So first one, infrastructure, platform, and software. So if you observe carefully now, what you will do, if you want to provide the on-premises related, based on your requirement, they will try to provide all the information here. Getting the point. So now first we will discuss about this particular infrastructure, how this particular infrastructure it is going to provide. So inside the infrastructure, if you observe carefully, if you are trying to prepare some item here, now what you will do, so this inside the infrastructure, they will provide the furniture. Okay. So they will provide this particular furniture, and the same way, at the same time, they are going to provide the plates, and they are going to give in the oven also. Getting the point? But now you can see just they are giving the infrastructure. Only they are providing the furniture and the required plates and the required so like a cooking related oven they will provide. But here who is going to cook here? So as a developer, like like whoever they are trying to take this particular service. So this particular IAA service, whoever they are trying to take, so they are the responsibility to build their service into this particular infrastructure as a service. So here now what we will do, we'll try to prepare the different type of dishes using this particular oven, and after preparing, we'll use this particular plate. So to have the particular different type of dishes here. So now everything we are going to prepare under this particular furniture. Now you can imagine how this particular infrastructure is going to work. So the required information they are going to prepare, like they are going to provide. But here, as a developer, so who is going to use this particular service, we need to be prepared what kind of the application we are going to develop and what are the services we are going to use. So everything we are going to build inside this particular infrastructure as a service. Okay, and if I'm going back to this particular platform as a service, so they will basically here what it will do, they are going to provide some additional services compared to this particular furniture. They are going to provide additional services. Here they will give you they are going to provide the support team. Getting the pen? Here they are going to provide so they will not provide this particular furniture, but here they are going to provide the same. It's like they are going to provide the oven and they are going to provide some support. Support is nothing but chef. The chef is going to provide. So now what happens internally? So this particular support team, they will try to provide what are the services we are going to develop. They will prepare all the services integrations information and configurations information, and they will give the cloud as a ready here. Getting the pen? So inside this particular platform as service, basically they are going to provide some support team information. So the support team, they will try to provide the configurations and integration related stuff here. Okay, so this is another important service we can identify. And now if you go to this particular software as a service, so what happens internally? So everything they are going to provide. Getting the point? So here we don't need to buy any additional services here. So everything they are going to provide inside this particular services as a like software as a service. So if you imagine this, it's like a restaurant here. Now what you will do? So just will give the amount and we'll try to buy the different type of dishes here. Getting the point? So here with the help of this particular platform as a like platform as well as this particular infrastructure. So if you're trying to give the amount, but you need to be prepare something. Getting the point? But inside this particular software, we are not going to prepare anything. So everything is prepared by so who is going to provide the service? Just we are going to use this particular service for using. We are going to charge that the particular amount here. So these are all the different the cloud services we are going to have here. Okay. So this is very important. If you search any service like cloud related applications here, so they are going to follow any one of this service here. So either the software they are going to follow, or they are going to follow with the platform, or they can follow with the infrastructure here. But most of the applications they are going to follow this particular software as a service here. Because again, if I'm trying to use this particular platform, we need to buy the one support team to manage this particular cloud related information. Because here the software itself they are going to provide the configurations and support related sections here. Okay, so these are all the different services we are going to have in our cloud environments here. Now, so which one is better? So we can move on to the SaaS. So instead of using this particular the infrastructure and the platform, so again, so we need to spend some time to configure and do infrastructure here. Okay, so coming back to here, so why we need to use the cloud when we are trying to develop the microservice applications here? Getting the point? So basically, what happens? What are the drawbacks? Again, we are going to have. This is another important section we need to understand. So if you are trying to work with a physical server, when we are trying to work with monolithic applications here, we are going to work with physical servers. The servers is going to deployed in some locations here. Now we are going to restart the server whenever we are trying to rebuild the applications here. So again, it is a complexity because nowadays the physical servers are very expensive here. Getting the point. So right now we are getting something like open source related servers here, but if you are trying to deploy this particular application, the open source services they are not going to use here. So we need to install the physical service, the physical server here. Okay, so now instead of doing this, now what we will do basically in the cloud environment, we are going to create the different type of virtual servers here. Getting the point. So when we are trying to create this particular virtual servers, so one server is down, automatically it will give the whatever the request we are having. So it will try to transfer into the another server with the help of this particular load balancers here. Okay. So because of this particular physical server, so virtual servers will give you the more performance here. So application, so within the short term time, it's going to restart, and we are going to get performance also very fast. Okay, so this is very important, and along with this, now we are going to deploy the application with help of the virtual container. So container is nothing but we are going to build the application as an image. So if you observe carefully, nowadays all the applications are they are trying to build with Docker related sections. Getting the point. So if you are trying to build the image with help of this Docker, with help of this particular Docker, the image only we are going to deploy into the virtual containers here, like virtual servers here. So this image is not going to supported in our physical server. So the physical server basically it will support as a var or jar file here. Getting the point. So because of this, now the microservices are they are trying to use this particular cloud environment. So these are all the cloud-based advantage we are going to get with help of this particular microservices here. Now you can see. So basically, when we are trying to migrate into this particular cloud, so we are going to get so high the scalability here. So whatever we are trying to discuss with help of this particular monolithic, compared to this, we are going to get high scalability here. And so another important section we need to identify here whenever we are trying to deploy this particular microservices here. So here we are going to follow the different patterns here. So using this particular patterns, we are going to deploy the build and to deploy the microservices related applications. So what are the different patterns we are having here? First one is core development pattern. Okay, so any microservice application we are going to use, we are going to follow this particular pattern here. So this is something like a code development pattern. And another one is routing pattern. So this is important here. So routing, so because we are going to communicate with multiple services here. So we need a routing here. So one service to another service, we are going to communicate because of this particular routing here. And another one is security pattern. Okay, security is also very important here. So without the security, we cannot get the robust related applications here. And so we already identified logging related. Okay, logging, and we can call it as a tracing. Like if you want to identify the application, so what is the health, and so where exactly, if we get any exception with help of this particular logging only, we can identify the exception related sections here. So nowadays this is also very important here because of the multiple users we cannot identify. So where we are going to get any exceptions. So each and every line or each and every method and each and every class, so we need to follow some guidelines of this particular logging here. So then only we can easily debug the application to identify the root cause here. And finally, so we are going to identify the build and deployment pattern. Okay, so build and deployment pattern. So if we want to identify this particular deployment pattern internally, so whatever I discuss here, so it will try to follow the CI/CD guidelines here. Getting the point. So in continuous integration and continuous deployment here. So this is we are going to follow these are all the different patterns we are having. Now, so resiliency pattern. Basically, so we miss one pattern, something like resiliency. Resiliency we can call it as a balancing, load balancing pattern. So load balancing pattern also is important here. So how we are going to identify this particular load balancing here. because with the help of this particular cloud, we are going to deploy our application in the global here, so not in the some country here. Because of this, we may get multiple users. So we need to identify the something like load balancing also. So we can call it as a something like load balancing pattern. So these are all the different patterns we are going to follow whenever we are trying to develop the microservices related example here. Okay, so we'll try to identify each and every pattern, how it is going to work. So first we'll try to discuss about the core pattern. So what exactly the core pattern we are going to identify here? So first we are going to provide the configurations management and how we are going to design our application. So it's like a interface design and how we are going to communicate with each and every service. So these are all the information we are going to provide inside this particular core development pattern here. Okay, so we'll try to continue this each and every service, like each and every pattern. So how this particular patterns are going to work. So in our day-to-day training. Okay, now back to here. So we identified these are all the different patterns. So with help of this particular different pattern, now we'll try to run our application. So whenever we are trying to run the microservice application, so what we need a Git and some Eruka related example here. Getting the point? Because the routing pattern we are going to discuss with help of this particular Eruka here. Okay, now let's see. So how we can write this particular example. So if I want to write this example, so I'm going to create a one service here. Getting the point? So I'm going to create the one service. So what is a service we can create here? So to create this particular service, we can call it as a license service or organization service we can create here. Now I'm stopping this. So whatever we discuss this example up to, these are all the Spring Boot related section. Okay. Now here, this is we identified all the example we are going to discuss with the help of REST controller. Now what I am doing here, I'm trying to create one more service. So what is the service we can create? So project, here we are selecting Spring Initializer. Name of the project, what we can provide here. So we can provide something like a licensing service. Okay, so I'm going to create a few services here. So with help of this particular services, we'll try to communicate the integration parts, all this. Okay, now observe carefully. So licensing service. Okay, so here, what is the group we can provide? So com dot. So here I want to provide com dot to license. Package name com dot license service. Yeah, I think it's fine. So artifact licensing service we can provide, and here so jar and maven. So create a git repository. So now you can see whenever we are trying to click on this checkbox here internally, it will try to create the repository also. Getting the point? So now okay, so we can use this particular licensing services. So JDK is expecting 11. We can go for the Java also 11 here. We can go for the so jar is fine, because finally we'll deploy with a Docker image here. Location, by default it will go to the so we cannot create in this location. Now I want to go to the one folder here. So inside this here inside the Eclipse workspace, here I'm going to create a new directory, microservices. Okay, I'm going to select this particular microservices here. So the project is going to create under this particular microservice here. So next I'm trying to select. So what are the dependencies we can select? So right now, what we need. So first I'm going to select the Lombak here, because each and every example we can discuss with the Lombak here. So we already familiar with the Lombak in the previous example here. And we can go for this particular web. So right now, these two are enough here. Okay. So if it requires any additional here, so we can select later, because we can go for the database as well as some security related section. So we'll see later. Now, what I'm doing here, I'm trying to selecting this two. So I'm trying to creating this. So what is the version we are having? 2.7.3. So where we can use, I think the current window we can use here. So it is taking some time to build the application. So it's trying to resolve the dependencies here. Okay. So the sync is completed. Now what you can do? So this is the default information we are getting here. So now you can see this is provided by the IntelliJ ID. Okay. So it's something like a help.md. Now you can see, so here we are having source, main, and Java resource. So this is the licensing service application. So now, what is the default port is going to run? It is trying to run on the 8080. So if I'm going to run this application, so it will try to run on the 8080 port here. So LOMBAC is not required, so we need to enable this particular LOMBAC here. So application is started. Now if I'm going to run this example 8080, so we may get 404 because we did not provide any controller classes. Getting the point. So because of this particular controller classes, so we are getting the white label error page here. So this is the default page we already identified, because it's like a simple Spring Boot application we created. Getting the point. So this is important, we need to identify here. Now after this, now what we will do, we'll try to create the controller as well as some model service and resource classes here. Now if you observe, by default we are going to get Maven plugin, LOMBAC and Maven plugin. So this is excluding here. So the LOMBAC is now it is excluding from the plugin here. Okay. So this is now we added. Now what we will do, we'll try to add the different informations here, because we already familiar this. So we don't need to discuss one more time here. So what exactly the configuration will do, what exactly the Spring Boot application annotation will do. So we don't want to discuss more because we already identified here. Now I'm going to create the controller. So whenever I'm trying to create the controller, now what I'm trying to do, here I'm going to provide the package. So whatever the package we are having, under this particular package, I'm going to create the one more package, something like a controller. Okay, under this particular controller, so Java class. What is the Java class we can provide? Something like a license controller. Okay, so this is the license controller. Now what you can do, here directly we can move on to the REST controller, and we can go for the request to mapping. So request mapping. Now what we can do here, so we need to provide the value. So what is the value we can provide? So here I'm trying to providing some different path here. Now basically this is we are going to follow in the real time, something like V1, it is a version 1. Okay, and you can write the organization. So whatever we interested. So this is not the fixed one. So we based on our application, so we are going to write the different endpoints here. So now you can see V1 organization, something like if you are interested, we can provide the organization ID. Okay, so if you are interested, you can provide this particular organization ID. So right now we don't have any organization ID. So now you can see, now I'm trying to providing this particular organization ID, and finally we are going to discuss about the license here. So this is the request mapping we are going to provide here. Okay, so this is the request mapping I'm provided. Now you can see what I'm doing here. Here I'm going to provide the body of this particular example here. Now, so what is the body of example we can provide here? This is important. So right now, organization ID. With help of this particular organization ID, now what we can do? First, we need to load the organization information. Organization information. So right now, do we have any organization information? So we don't have any organization information. But how we can load here? Getting the point. So now what I will do? So later, once we create this particular organization, so we can load this particular organization information. So I'm trying to keep as it is this. Here I'm going to provide this particular method, something like a public, and so here we can write the license. Okay, so because of this particular license service, I'm trying to load the license service here. So this is important, we need to identify here. Now after this, now what we will do? So we'll try to provide the model class. So what is the model class we are going to use here? Something like a license here. Okay, let me create the license. Create a parameter type, not this particular parameter. I'm going to create the Java class. So not Java class. First we need to create the model package. So inside the model, I'm going to create the class. Okay. So this is the license class I'm going to use here. And here, so what is the annotations we need to use here? Because we are trying to work with a Lombak here. So if I want to use the Lombak, now what we can do? We can go for the Lombak here, and we can write the getter, and we can write the setter here, and we can go for the constructor. So what is the constructor we can go for is no arg constructor. It's like a empty constructor. Okay, now what I'm doing here I'm trying to providing so string ID. What we can write here, we can make a string. Okay, string ID. So we may change based on our requirement. So here organization ID. Now if you observe carefully, this is the license service we are discussing. Okay, later we'll try to create the organization service. Now you can see, so product name. And what we can discuss here, something like a license type here. So whatever the license type we are having, so we can provide this particular different license types here. Okay, after this, now what we are trying to do here, so we are going to create the controller class. So whenever we are trying to discuss about this particular controller class, now what we are doing is, so this is the license service controller we are trying to create here. Now we'll try to import this. So this is the license we are able to see here. Now after this, now what I am doing is, here I'm going to provide the so request mapping. Okay, so here I'm going to provide the request mapping, and we can go for the value. So what we can provide this particular value, here we can write the license ID. So these are all the different so path I'm trying to use. Like here we can see this also we can take this variable also we can take like a placeholder. Now here path variable, and what we can select here, first one we need to select as a organization ID. After this, string here organization ID, and second one is the same path variable I want to select for this particular license here. Okay, now license ID. So this is we need to identify organization and license. So here we are trying to providing one placeholder, and another one is inside this particular get license here. Now what we will do basically, so here we are going to write this particular license object. So here I'm trying to construct this. So the empty object I'm trying to construct. Now observe carefully. Here I'm trying to return this particular new license here, and if I'm trying to create this particular new license, what we can write here, set ID. Okay, so what is the license ID we are going to have, and later set ID is a void method, right? What we can do, so okay, here I will construct the object instead of returning this. Okay, so here I will construct this object here. So Control Shift V. Okay, so license object here, license dot set ID, license ID, and license dot set organization ID, organization ID. Okay, and license dot with product name. So what is the product name we can provide? So what is the license we are going to provide? Product something like so iPhone. So okay, so this is the product we are trying to use here. License dot set license type here. What is the type basically we can provide here? So this is the type I'm trying to provide, and finally we can return license here. Okay, this is the simple Spring Boot application. So this is the one service. So we can say, so each and every microservice internally one Spring Boot application here. So now we are trying to create one license controller, and we are trying to providing this. So after this, now what we will do, we'll try to providing this particular get method, something put method we'll try to discuss later, but we'll try to run this example. Let me stop this, and I'm going to run same example here. Stop this. So I modify some changes here. Okay, so application is started. Now we'll go to this particular section. We'll clear this, and here I'm going to create a one collection. So let me create a microservice. Okay, now it is not working. So basically I want to provide one folders so that okay, why I'm not getting, okay, I think here we need duplicate add folder. Okay, this we are getting. License service. Okay, request how we can send. So here I'm going to write this. copy this. It is trying to start on the local host. 8080. Okay. So double slash we are able to see. And organization ID. So organization ID I want to give as organization ID only. So after this, now I want to give license ID, something like this is the license ID. Now let me send a request here. Now you can see, so this is the object we are getting here. Okay, so whatever we constructing here, so something like this is the object information we are getting. Now, so under the microservice, now here, save under the license service. So now I'm trying to save under this particular license service here. Now what you understand is, so simply we created one Spring Boot applications here. Now what we are doing is, so we are trying to providing organization ID and the license ID. So this is the two path variable we are trying to load. So and we are trying to constructing a license object. Now we are trying to return this. So the same information we are getting in our postman. Okay. So after this, now what we need to understand basically here, we are using the request mapping to load the data here. And we identify the two path variables here. So after this, it will try to run and it will try to provide the all the object information here. Now, so now if you want to execute this in the DevOps related. Basically, now we are not discussing this, but what we will do, if you are like identify this is the one of the microservices, what we will do basically, we'll try to create a one Docker image and we'll deploy the service into the Docker container here. Okay, so from the Docker container, we are going to access this particular service here. So to access this, now what we will do basically, we'll try to create a one folder, the Docker related folder. Now based on that, we'll try to deploy the all the Docker images. So we'll see how this particular Docker images are going to work internally. But right now, we are not going to discuss any Docker related sections here. So to just for understanding, under the main, here I'm going to create a one directory, something like so Docker directory I'm trying to create here, and here I'm going to provide the one file here. So what is the file we can provide? Docker file. So this is also we can add this particular Docker file. So if you add this particular Docker file, now so this is important. So if I want to show you the Docker file, what is the current OpenJDK version? Docker Hub. We need to discuss about the Docker Hub. I think I'm having account also. Let me connect to this. No. Okay, so I think I forgetted this. Let me see in my sticky pads I'm having anything. Docker Hub. So I'm not having the email. Okay, so I'm having Docker Hub access here. So let me see. So I identify some Docker related here. Okay, and here OpenJDK I want to search here. Here we are having OpenJDK. So what is the version we are having on this? So 20E. Okay, if I want to use this, Docker pull OpenJDK. Let me see the tags. OpenJDK 20 Slim. Line next. Okay, let me copy this. Any other we are having? OpenJDK with versions we need. Let me come down. Share tags, Docker images, OpenJDK, Docker run, image variant. So license. Okay. Now what I will do? So whatever we added here. Now I want to copy this. Not Docker pull. So we are not going to use this particular Docker pull. Okay. So from the OpenJDK, so 20-slim we are going to write here. So after this, now what we will do? We are going to create a one directory here. Okay. So this will use the run command. So using this particular run command, we are going to provide the make directory mkdir. So this particular make directory we can create. So -push. So I will let you know more information about this Docker, but just for the license service, how we can push these changes, I'm trying to create. So I'm trying to push this under the USR local. What is the application name? Licensing service. Okay, so I'm going to create a directory. So after this, now what I will do, so I want to add this. Maybe let me write with the. So now I want to add this. Whatever we are having this. So whatever the project dot build dot name. What we are having. So let me go to the pom.xml. Whatever we are constructing this is important. We need to identify project builder final name. Here we are not having any project build file name. So what we can provide, G Springboard license service description. So this is we can add, I think. So how it is coming? Let's see in the inside the target. Okay. So how it is coming? I want to add this. Let me go to the terminal. Maven clean install. What happens internally? Okay, install. So it is wrong. Where is the Docker file? Okay, and this particular jar file now I'm trying to add here. So this is where we are going to add under this particular location. So that is important here. So wherever we want to add here, we can provide here. So same thing. I'm going to copy this. So after this particular license service, now we are trying to add here. Now after this, so run command we need to add run.ch. Okay. So here we need to run this. So chmod. So we are giving the permission to this particular file so that the file will be run here. cmd dot slash this particular file is going to run. So this is the some like Docker file I created. Now after this particular Docker file, so we need to create the so run.ch here. So where I'm trying to create these two files under this particular Docker folder. Okay, so now what is the information I'm going to add here? So echo basically it's a message basically. Okay, it will print this particular message, and after this, so one more echo I'm trying to add, like these are all the so command basically it will print the message. Let's see NSC starting license server. Okay, and here we can write java -jar. Now, so what we can identify here? Docker file. Here we can paste this. So after this, whatever the license .jar, this is going to build. Okay, so this is the command it is going to run our application here. So this is we are going to use here. So to understand this, now what we are going to do basically, this is important here. So after running our application, so first I need to check whether the Docker is available or not. If the Docker is not available, now what we will do? So we need to install the Docker here. So to install this particular Docker, let me go to this. I think right now I don't have this. Go to this, the terminal. Docker is not recognized here. Okay, so if it is not recognized here, now what we can do? We'll go to the pom.xml. We can add so Docker plugin here. So whatever this particular Maven plugin we are having, now we are going to add so Docker plugin. So if I want to add this particular Docker plugin, let me go to our important section. So what I'm having, Maven repositories. Here we can identify the Docker plugin basically it will come from the Spotify. Let's see, do we have any plugin Docker Java? Maven plugin, Maven core, Maven annotation. Okay, so now what I will do, I will run in the Google. So we'll see inactive. Okay, so this is the code we are having. Okay, now what they are trying to provide? So Java -jar, copy this particular use Docker file, image name, directory path, and usage, Maven key, Docker image. Okay, so let me Copy the first one. This is the Docker plugin. Now, oh, we don't have this. Okay, what is the current version we are having? So status is inactive. Maven Central 1.2.0, not this. Where we can identify the version Docker host. Okay, let's see any other version we are having. Docker file Maven version. Build goal push Swapify version, Docker file Maven version. So what is the version we are having? It's required this plugin Java 7, Apache 3, Maven plugin 146. Okay, depending on Docker image and the other service. Let me add this. This is having some more information. Docker file Maven version we need. I will copy this. So I want to find out this Maven version. So we are having this. So why it could not provided this? Let me add this dependency, whether it will work. So it is trying to download the plugins here. So what happens? Why this must taking time? Oh. Okay. So I think it's taking some time here. Now I need to spend time. So what is the correct version of this particular Docker file? It's like a plugin. The plugin will do the build and do push the image into the Docker Hub. So this is the Docker Hub, whatever I shown here, where I'm having. Yeah, this is the Docker Hub. Now I'm going to push this particular changes into this particular Docker Hub. So from here, we are going to access the images here. Now we'll see, like we'll try to continue the same example, and tomorrow we'll try to continue like after completion of this particular Docker image. So we'll try to identify the cloud configurations. So how we can identify the cloud informations here. So that tomorrow we are going to discuss. It's like a one more service we are going to create a with help of this particular one more service. So we are going to communicate with our cloud related. So most probably we are going to discuss about the Spring, whatever the cloud configuration server which is going to provide. The Spring Boot internally, it will provide the cloud configuration service. Now we'll discuss the cloud configuration service, how it is going to work here. Okay, so I'm going to continue. Now you can see, so it is trying to throw an error. I want to provide the Docker file Maven version. I think this is we can use. Let me add this instead of doing this. So I want to if it is working, we can see why we are getting this. Provided the transfer vulnerable dependency. Okay. So internally is expecting GUI related here. Okay, now we'll go to the terminal. So I'm trying to clear this. So I want to build this. So how we can build basically? So Maven clean, because we added plugin. So it should be build this Docker here. Package here, Docker colon build. The Docker colon build basically it is coming from the Docker plugin. So it is trying to download all the repositories here. So whatever we are trying to use here. So it is failing. So why it is failing? No plugin found. Okay, so Docker it is not working. So whatever the plugin we provided, maybe this plugin is a Docker file Maven plugin. Why it is not working? So I will review on this. So this particular plugin is not working. So we can go for the different plugin basically. So we need to identify how this particular plugins are going to work internally. So whatever we provided, it should work basically. Docker, let's see, instead of Docker file, if I'm going to make a Docker Maven plugin, it is not available. So we can use, I hope, this version 0.4.10. Let me see whether we can use on this. Okay, so inside this it is not available repository. Product builder final name here. Okay, so I will provide the correct latest plugin, because this is the old plugin we are using, so we cannot go for this particular old plugin. Now I will let you know. I will do some R&D on this Docker plugin. So whatever the command we are using here, so the command is same. This is the command we are going to use to build the Docker image. But only the problem here, so the proper plugin we could not identify here. Now once I identify this particular Docker Maven plugin, I will let you know. So we can build the image and we can see the image in the Docker Hub. So from the Docker Hub, we can run the image here. Okay. So after this, now we'll move on to the cloud configurations here. So how we can communicate the cloud configuration example in tomorrow session. Okay. So any questions up to what we discussed so far? Okay. So if we don't have anything, so we'll continue tomorrow.